All right, let's talk about this right now. And right from the very first moment that we learned about the Nord Stream pipeline attack, we knew who was responsible, right? Anyone with a brain understands this. This was the largest eco-terrorist attack in history. To anyone paying attention, it became immediately clear that it was the United States directing traffic on this. Now, did they actually pull the trigger on this? Was it, United States Marines or Navy SEALs dropping down on a rope and doing it? Who knows? But they certainly were driving the traffic on all of this. And were they able to push this off on somebody else? What is it called? Plausible deniability? Where they could say, we just, we gave the okay, but we didn't see it happen. So yeah, there's some people out there. We have some people out there that can, take care of this. We have plausible deniability. Mm-hmm. And that's why, you saw President Biden and others just basically sloughing this off, not answering the question. The Western media, though, has been burying the story. I mean, go to CNN, go to BBC, go to these other Western media outlets, and they've just ignored the story. Think about this as like a 9/11 style terror attack, ecological terror attack, and it's been largely just pushed away and ignored.
Or the BP oil spill, right? Yeah. It is on par with that ecologically. And
we had a camera set up on the BP oil spill, and every day you saw that camera. Remember the bubbling in the Gulf oil? It was nonstop.
Oh, I remember. Right.
And coverage of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill and BP, every day. Right?
Although there's the joke, I think it's from Morrissey, the singer, that if the rest of the world just kind of fell away tomorrow, it wouldn't even make the 6 o'clock news in America because it's that's happening there. Who cares? Europeans will be cold. We're okay.
Yeah, they're okay over there in Kansas. That's fine. Well, like I said, the Western media has been ignoring this story. It's not a front page story on any of the Western media websites. But the truth will come out. And eventually we will hear from the Biden administration on who ordered this attack. We will find this out eventually. Maybe not this year, maybe next year. But Jeffrey Sachs he's an economics professor at Columbia. Very smart guy. You might remember us featuring Jeffrey here on the show a number of months ago. Of course, he was calling out the creation of COVID, saying where it came from, right from a lab in Wuhan, talking specifically about the biolabs. He has been really a contrarian voice, and Bloomberg knows this. They've had him on from time to time, and he's said some contrarian things that doesn't get big play in the mainstream media. And yesterday, though, was really a stunning moment on Bloomberg's morning show called Surveillance with Lisa Abramowitz and Tom Keene. Anyway, Tom Keene is the guy in the bow tie. He's the older gentleman. And Jeffrey Sachs was on talking about what's going on in Ukraine and what's happened with the Nord Stream pipeline. I want you to watch this unbelievable exchange. Watch.
They raise rates in the front end.
Well, Europe is in a very, very sharp economic downturn. The sharp decline of output and living standards also shows up as a rise of prices. But the main fact is that the European economy is getting hammered by the sudden cutoff of energy. And now, to make it definitive, the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, which I would bet was a U.S. action, perhaps U.S. and Poland. This is
Jeff, we got to stop there. That's quite a statement as well. Why do you feel that was a U.S. action? What evidence do you have of that?
Well, first of all, there's direct radar evidence that U.S. helicopters, military helicopters that are normally based in Gdansk, were circling over this area. We also had the threats from the United States earlier in this year that one way or another, we are going to end Nord Stream. We also have a remarkable statement by Secretary Blinken last Friday in a press conference. He says, this is also a tremendous opportunity. It's a strange way to talk if you're worried about.
Just listen to them try to cut him off. Oh my God, beep, beep, beep. He's going afoul of the mainstream narrative. Tom tried to cut him off. And now Lisa Abramowitz is trying to cut him off.
His
oh my God.
face was hilarious when the news anchor responds in a negative way. He went, yeah, I said that.
Oh, I said that? I'm going to get in trouble here, get a little spanking?
Sorry, but I was always going to say that.
So listen to Lisa now try to cut him off. Watch.
To piracy on international infrastructure of vital significance. So I know this runs counter to our narrative. You're not allowed to say these things in the West. But the fact of the matter is, all over the world, when I talk to people, they think the U.S. Did it. Just to tell you.
Well,
and by the way, even reporters on our papers that are involved tell me privately, yeah, well, of course, but it doesn't show up in our media.
Professor, I don't want to get into tit for tat about what did or did not happen with Nord Stream, because I don't have the.
Yeah, because you know what, we don't want to cover that story.
I don't want to get in tit for tat, and I also don't want evidence.
Right.
We can't have that.
So let's just speed this segment up and cut you off. And by the way, now, if you go to Bloomberg's website to try to find this segment, you can't find it. So this is Bloomberg's website. Do a search for Jeffrey Sachs. The latest result is from February of 2022, the day after right around the day that I think the war broke out. So you can't find this segment. They've censored this segment.
I mean, think of all the things that the media is perfectly willing to speculate upon. But this, come on.
Yeah, we can't do this.
No.
And we're going to hide this result.
Well, I absolutely love that they're like, so what are your thoughts on the Nord Stream pipeline? And he's like, well, this is my thoughts. Well, I don't want to get into the tit for tat. Like, well, then why did you ask? Like, you brought it up.
I mean, we had this big discussion about 9/11, like who was responsible, you know, like who should then we make pay for what they did to us, right?
Yeah.
This is one of the major pipelines that's delivering natural gas to Europe. People will freeze, you know. And again, this is, you see students in the Czech Republic yesterday morning. This video is unbelievable. The students in Czech Republic wearing blankets because they're not turning on the heat. So all of these students are just huddled in blankets in classrooms. Like that's what's happening, guys. So again, he talked about President Biden specifically making this threat back in the early part of the year. Listen to President Biden say it.
Let me answer the first question first. If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
Yeah, we will bring an end to it, right? He goes on and on about that. The same thing has happened with Victoria Nuland, we featured here on the show. Regime change champion Victoria Nuland, who installed a puppet regime inside Ukraine and who told Europe to go F itself, is the same person who said we would take it out. Remember this?
With regard to Nord Stream 2, we continue to have very strong and clear conversations with our German allies, and I want to be clear with you today. If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
I love her smile too, you know, like she's like, it will not move forward. She reminds me of like Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter. Then you have Antony Blinken, of course, who Jeffrey Sachs was referring to, and Secretary of State Antony Blinken deflecting the question, dodging the question about who attacked the Nord Stream pipeline, and instead of turning it right around to the sort of Klaus Schwab World Economic Forum Great Reset play, which is, this is a great opportunity for the world. We should not miss this opportunity. Listen.
Ultimately, this is also a tremendous opportunity. It's a tremendous opportunity to once and for all remove the dependence on Russian energy, and thus to take away from Vladimir Putin the weaponization of energy as a means of advancing his imperial designs.
Yeah, so it's an amazing opportunity. And then we actually last night we had U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm like piling on and agreeing with Antony Blinken about this is an amazing opportunity. So this is the White House line now. You heard it from Karine Jean-Pierre, who's the White House press spokesperson. You've heard it now from Antony Blinken. You're hearing it from Jennifer Granholm. They're all speaking from the same script, which is this is an amazing energy opportunity for us to move towards this great reset agenda, which is to get you off of fossil fuels. We should use this. We should use it. We created the problem. We should use it. Listen to Jennifer Granholm.
I think Russia has proven itself to be an unreliable energy partner. It used to be reliable. No more. No country wants to take the risk of putting a significant amount of its energy demand to Russia's supply. It is clear. And in fact, I think this accelerates the EU's push to become energy independent through clean energy. And they're building up their own homegrown energy. I'm at the IAEA conference, the International Atomic Energy Agency conference. Every country is looking at the risks associated with putting too many eggs in one basket or putting too many eggs in the basket of petrodictators and the volatility of the fossil fuels that accrue from that. Everyone is looking to how I can become energy independent.
So all of this was a great opportunity. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. It's like a
freeze.
television commercial, right? Are you still hoping you'll get gas from the Nord Stream pipeline this winter? Well, don't let this opportunity pass you by. Put up some solar panels on your house. Buy an electric car. We know you'll freeze, but that's okay. Like, don't let this opportunity pass you by right now.
You can freeze as your patriotic duty.
Right.
So.
Well, this seems a lot like trying to get out in front of the story. Like, you know, when a scandal's about to break and then somebody like admits to it before the press releases it, so that you're out in front of it and it looks like, no, it was fine. It's like they're hitting this PR before it's official who did it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
then
Yeah. We told you, like, this is an opportunity, so we don't know exactly who did it. We'll pretend that we still don't know exactly.
I mean, you can talk about how, like, look, we should have been prepared with alternative energy, which, sure, yeah, that may be a valid point. I don't think the green energy that the powers that be is promoting are the answers. But yeah, everybody would like to be less dependent on something that they do not produce. But it's really scary to have your children freezing. We've been through this before because we lived in an area in New Jersey where our power would constantly shut off for big storms like Irene and Hurricane Sandy, and we would be without power for weeks on end. And to have my babies were really small at the time, like 1 and 3, and to have them freezing in a house and I had no alternative was terrifying. And this is the future that you feel so helpless when you have, and remember they got colds, their whole faces were red. We didn't have the third baby at the time. And I remember how scared I felt
and that's because
living in a society that I had no options to like chop down wood and like make, we had a fireplace, but when they went to bed, it just was really scary. And this is a small taste.
And that was that was a natural disaster.
Yes.
Right. So this is man-made.
Right.
Like, we have a choice. And so these schools in the Czech Republic that are literally shutting down, they haven't even turned on their heat because they can't. So they're just giving out blankets to their students. Like what? I mean, okay, that's what we're doing. And that's not even the worst of it. We're just starting to get cold. Like that's not even the worst of it.
It feels awful. And I know that we are collectively going to feel this way. And politicians feel like this was an acceptable thing to do. Somebody felt like, taking this resource out of people's hands was acceptable. And it turns my stomach to think about it.